Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Player First podcast with your co-host, Leonardo Caparelli, and myself, Fernando Tibaquera. In today's episode, we are excited to start speaking about how to translate what we do on the field into the classroom, right? So how to be a winner, not only on the field, but how to be a winner in the classroom. Because as we know, youth players, they need to not only be succeeding on the field, but they need to be succeeding in the classroom, right? And Coach Leo and myself, we believe that players need to do what's right, not only on the field but in the classroom. So first of all, Coach Leo, welcome in. How are you doing today? And then let's dig in before we get there.
Coach Fernando, the week goes so quick, man.
It does, right? It does, doesn't
it? Well, hopefully you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I know all you Americans were in their Thanksgiving festivities, so I hope it all went well. But apart from that, all's going good. So from here in the UK, from the 2nd of December, lockdown is, it's being stopped, and we can get back out onto the training field.
Oh, that's great news.
Yeah. So after December the 2nd, all grassroots soccer can resume as normal. So looking forward to getting back out onto the field and working with our players again.
Excellent. That's great news. That's great.
That's it. Yeah. Until the next lockdown 3.
Yeah. Please don't say that.
The trilogy.
Yeah, right. Seriously, I don't know. Thing is, no one knows what's going to happen at any point. So we just gotta roll with it and hope for the best. And hopefully, everybody out there watching is staying safe and doing what they need to do to keep themselves and their families safe.
Absolutely. What about yourself? How's everything in New York?
Good. Everything in New York is going well, thankfully. There is a little bit of concern with that rising a little bit in certain areas. Thankfully, it hasn't been as widespread as the first time around. So, I'm hoping things stay contained and we don't have to go into another lockdown here. So far, no lockdown has been put in place, but we really don't know. It is very possible that we do go into another lockdown. So we'll see what happens, but I'm hoping lessons have been learned and people are a little bit safer. And things don't go as far south as they did last time. So, but as of now, everything's good. I'm excited to, get into our winter season. We're starting to move indoors. We're starting to get our winter clinic in order and our small groups and one-on-one trainings going. So it's an exciting time. So I'm hoping everything stays nice and open for us, but we'll see what happens, of course. So
that's good. Awesome.
But diving into today's episode about winning in the classroom and how to win in the classroom, I know pre-show we had some conversations about some really important things that players can do to translate what they learn on the field to the classroom to be successful in the classroom. And, I know we had talked about when we were younger, and I'll talk about me when I was younger, I never really had put much thought or was never really taught about the values and the things that the game teaches you and how those things can be used to be a better student, be a better family member, etc. But specifically here, being a better student, right? I was never really taught that by another coach, or those things weren't pointed out to us when we were younger. It was never really something we discussed, and never something that a kid thinks about, right? So, I think this is an important topic for a lot of families and a lot of kids to be aware of. That way they can take what's happening on the field and what we learn and what the game teaches us and apply it to other areas of their life, like school, which is a big part of all our players' lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Like as you mentioned as well, this is it's a topic that I know when I do workshops, and we touch very briefly on this topic about transferable skills, right? So transferring what you do in soccer, and how can we then transfer that, the goodness of what you do in soccer into the classroom. A lot of kids struggle, right? They struggle to think sort of creatively, in the sense that, right, if I'm good at this in soccer, how can I then take that and be good at something at school? So the purpose behind this show, this video, is to help parents and we hope kids as well, to understand that there are a lot of similarities between sport and school.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's just a case of actually someone saying to you, or someone showing you, or someone educating you about those similarities. Okay, and that's what we hope to achieve with this show today.
Yeah, that was well said. Definitely looking to help families and players, see those similarities. Excuse me. So first thing that we had discussed was, when it comes to your team responsibilities, one of the things that's very important is that, especially as you get older, is arriving on time to your team practices, to your sessions, to games, to warm-ups, to all that stuff, to team meetings, whatever it is, making sure that you're arriving on time. Because, if you're on a well-organized team, you can't arrive late, right? That is not okay to do in a team setting, right? Because you're letting down your teammates as well. So, I think that skill is very, very important. That's something that I always implement with my players, is being timely, arriving on time. And arriving on time means arriving early, right? So that's something I'm super hard on with my players, is arriving on time. If you're supposed to be here at this time, make sure you're here at this time, because that's your responsibility. And I think that skill is so important that it translates to other areas of their life, but specifically in school, especially here in the States, when you hit that middle school age, maybe around 11, 12 years old, you start having some freedom in the sense that you're moving yourself from classroom to classroom, right? Yeah. So you are actually moving to different classrooms, and it becomes on you to arrive on time to each class, right? And so if you're not doing that, you're going to be the one that suffers the consequences. But
exactly.
What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah. I'm going to give two things. So the first one, I'm going to be completely honest in that I didn't really learn about the importance of sort of punctuality, or being on time, until I arrived in the US. So, I think the European culture with the American culture, there's a massive difference, in the sense that I think the American culture is like bang on time, right? It's like, right, 3:00 we start. Right. I think Americans are very big on that, on time.
Right.
Might not be everyone, but at the sort of corporate level, that's something like Americans are really, really big on. So when I arrived in the US, that was something that I really learned, and I had to learn quickly, because I think in Europe, we have that mentality of if we're 5 minutes late, it's okay. Or 10 minutes late, it's okay. Whereas in the US, it's like, no, if we start at 3, we start at 3. You have to be there at 3. So that really helped me, in the sense that I then started to learn about being on time, scheduling my time out, planning. So my experience in the US really, really helped me to improve in that area. Now, then at school, when I was younger, arriving on time to specific lessons, and like you said, when you get to high school, it's pretty much down to you. Right? It's, you've got to make sure you find the classroom that you have to go, etc. So it's down to self-motivation. You know, there was some, and I remember there was specific subjects or teachers that you could get away with. You know, you could get away with arriving 5 minutes late because they won't say anything. However, there was other ones that when the teacher was a bit more strict, you made sure you were on time, because if not, they'll scream at you. So, but that, I think, isn't a good way of approaching your studies, because it's inconsistent, right? And how you do one thing, as we've mentioned, is how you do everything, right? You can't pick and choose. You have to be consistent. So for any player, parent watching, basically the message is, yes, you're going to get some teachers that are a bit more flexible, a bit more lenient, but as yourself, as your person, you have to be consistent and making sure, right, it doesn't matter if I don't like this subject, I have to be there on time, right? Because, you know, even if that subject doesn't motivate me, right, I need to be there on time so then I can build a good habit.
Right.
You know? And, you know, as you get older, there's certain things in life that, you know, you don't want to do. There's certain things that won't motivate you, that you don't want to do. But if you build that habit of just simply arriving on time, making sure you're there on time to lessons, then it's a good habit to have as you get older.
Right. Exactly.
And it's the same as your coach for your team will expect you to arrive on time to his sessions. You know, teachers expect you to arrive on time to their lessons. So the message is, if you're going to be, you know, if you're going to have great time management in soccer, then transfer that into school.
Right.
Transfer that into school, you know. I remember me personally, when I was younger, I was the same. Like for soccer, football, I was always the first one there because that motivated me. I wanted to be there. School, I was a bit like, oh man, do I need to go? You know.
Right.
But as you get older, you realize, you know, there's certain things that in life you don't want to do, but you have to do, but you've got to be consistent with it.
Yeah. Sure.
So if you're going to be good with time management in soccer, then we be good with our time management at school as well. Right? And that's how you transfer something you're good at in soccer and then you take that into the classroom to make sure you're there on time to all your lessons. And, you know, your teacher will start to notice these things.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
And something I remember is the kids that were always late to lessons were usually always the ones that teachers didn't treat the best. But the students that were there on time, you know, they were respectful. They were the ones that teachers always gave the most attention to.
Right. Right.
You know.
Yeah. No. Like you
If you
said,
want to be respected by your teacher, a very, very simple thing to do is arrive on time to lessons.
yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Just arriving on time is already how you start to earn that trust from your coach or your teacher. So it's very important. It's just a sign. It's almost like a sign of respect, right? You're just showing them that this is important to you, whether you truly believe it or not. You're showing it by arriving on time, right? If you're arriving late, you're showing your teacher, you're showing your coach that maybe that's not important to you, or you don't really care, right? And so it is a sign of respect. And I think the overall idea here is building that discipline, right? Building that discipline when it comes to the game. You have to be disciplined about certain things, and one of those things is your arrival time, right? And taking that discipline and implementing it into your classroom and your studies.
Exactly. And the concept's the same, right? If you arrive on time to your sessions, your coach will treat you differently. You know, no one wants to be that kid that arrives late and then everyone's looking at them, and then the coach has to address them like, why are you arriving late? And that kid then you have to give a reason. No one likes those type of kids. right? So just make an effort to be there on time, and that little thing will get you massive respect from not only your teachers, but your coaches as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So having that, like just having that discipline, right? And building it over time, building it over time.
Yeah.
And something else that's super important we talked about was, you know, not only arriving on time to your sessions, but arriving prepared, right? Being prepared for your sessions. And what we mean by that is like, have your materials, be organized, right? Have your water, have your ball, have your shoes, have your shin guards, have your proper attire, right? Have whatever you need to be prepared to succeed in your session, in your practice, in your game, whatever it is. And that idea of being prepared is very similar to being prepared in the classroom, right? Arriving to school with your books, with your materials, your pen, your pencil, whatever it is that you need to be successful in the classroom, right? Your homework done, whatever it is. So it's the same idea as arriving to the field with everything you need. It's like arriving to the classroom with everything you need.
Exactly. Yeah. Like as we're talking about this, I remember I had one teacher. It was my geography teacher, and she didn't stand for anything. Right? If you didn't bring a pen or pencil, like she wouldn't lend you any.
Right.
And she wouldn't allow someone else to lend you it either. So, you know, if you forgot it, if you turned up to your lesson without it, you're sitting there for an hour not doing anything. And it happened to me a few times, and you really feel like the only person not doing anything.
Right.
You know.
And what's funny is that's stuck with you, right? Because you have that story to tell right now, so you've learned that lesson.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, the thing is, as kids, you think to yourself, she'll be all right, she'll give me a pen. But this teacher, no, I remember her name. Her name was Miss Hahn.
That's so cool.
German woman. Like,
oh, so yeah, they're strict.
Yeah, man, they didn't mess around. So, but yeah, you forgot a pen. You had to sit there in silence while everyone writes, while everyone, you know, does what they have to. And the worst thing is, you know, back in those days, we didn't really have phones. So,
Coach Leo, you're dating us. You're dating us. Our kids are like, they didn't have phones. What the hell? When did they live?
Exactly. And I remember when she used to set the homework for us. Obviously, if you have a phone, you can maybe write down your homework. But back then, because we didn't have phones, right, you just had to remember it. And that was probably the part that really scared everyone. Because if you didn't do your homework with this woman, wow, like she would... Her screams like made the whole building shake. So you learn after the first lesson, you learn your lesson.
Right.
You know, and that scared a lot of kids for the right reasons, because the next session, well, the next lesson, you're like, right, have I got my pen? Have I got my book? Have I got my rubber? Have I got my pencil? And another thing she was really, really big on. So the pieces of paper, you know when you write, you have lines, right? Papers have lines. She made you use, like, you weren't allowed to skip a line. She made you use every single line of that piece of paper.
Right. Don't waste the line.
And if you missed the line, like, she'd make you stand outside. So she was military, man. She was tough. But, you know, certain things like that, which at the time scared you, you then took into the real world, you know, outside world, and you thought, right, what do I need? If I'm going to a meeting to see someone, if I'm going to my training session, have I got everything?
Right.
Okay, so that's that same mentality of when I arrived to to Miss Han's lessons, geography lessons, right? Have I got everything? Is the same way that then when I was outside, when I arrived to a meeting or someone's house or whatever, have I got everything?
Right.
Because that's, you know, that fear stayed with you, man.
Miss Hunt's coming to get you.
She's coming, man.
I love that. I love that story. That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
And that's a little example of how, you know, that's a skill that you then learn because you remember, right? Have I got all my equipment for my lesson?
Right.
Good. Okay. Now then I'm going to take that habit and I'm going to take it into soccer. Have I got my equipment, such as my boots, you know, my shin guards? Have I got the right uniform? Have I got my bottle of water, etc.? So it's exactly the same, you know.
Yep.
Luckily enough, I never had a coach that was like my geography teacher.
Well, speaking of that, yeah, I mean, I'm always, I can specifically think of one player I always have that she never brings her water, ever. Yeah. Never has a water bottle, like ever. And she's always going around, and this is obviously pre-pandemic, going around asking for players if she could have like some of their water. I'm like, no, you need to bring your own water. You can't do this. It's not fair to everybody else that you have to take their water. Yeah. So, but it's true because, you know, I don't know 100% how that player was in terms of their preparedness in the classroom, but, you know, if I had to bet money, I would probably bet that they probably weren't always prepared in the classroom either, right? Because as we said, as you do one thing, that's how you do everything. So how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're gonna be prepared for soccer for your sessions, right? Just take that skill, apply the same exact skill to the classroom, right? Prepare your books, prepare your pencils, whatever it is that you need to be successful. So that was a really great story, Coach Lee. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. That was awesome.
It gave me shivers, man.
I hope Miss, what was her name? Miss Hunt? Is that
Miss Han?
I hope Miss Han is watching this somewhere.
Wow, this was quite a while back, man.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Ms. Harn, thank you so much for teaching Coach Leo some manners. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's it. To be fair to her, she was a good teacher, but she was good because, and well, the funny thing is that the older you got, the more respect she had for you. But when you were like in your first year of high school, that was the worst, man. She was like, because she was obviously, you know, putting her, what's the word? Expectations.
Yeah.
Expectations for nice and early, scaring the little kids, so that when you get her when you're older, you know what to expect. And I remember as I got older, and then I got into like my last year of high school, there were certain things which, like the first year, she let us, like, she was good on. But that was because she then started to respect you as an older student, etc. But man, the first year, I remember. Last point on this, and then we'll move on. I remember because every year you got a different schedule, right? So you got your teacher, and then the subjects. And the first thing everyone in the year would look for is, right, geography. What teacher do you have?
Right.
And everyone would look at that, and then when no one got her, it was like, oh yeah.
It's funny to think about that, right?
Yeah. But I respect the woman because she taught me a lot.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think, you know, she taught you that being prepared is important. So, and that's such an important skill for life, being prepared when you get older for your work, right? Even whenever it is one day that you're working, whatever it is that you're doing, you need to show up prepared, ready for your job as well. So absolutely. Transfers everywhere. It's very important. And, you know, the last thing that we had talked about was the responsibility aspect of sport and soccer, football, and taking that into the classroom, right? And specifically you know, you have your and we talked about this before in a previous episode. You have your training sessions, you have your games, but there's also the responsibility, if you want to grow in the game, you want to get better, there's the responsibility of training on your own, right? And going home and working on your kick-ups or your juggles, or, you know, working on your passing against whatever it is, but you're training on your own, right? You're doing whatever you need to do on your own to get better. You're taking responsibility, self-responsibility. And if you are that type of player, that's a perfect skill to transfer in to the classroom as well, right? In terms of training on your own, almost is like it's like your homework, right? It's like the homework that you have from your class, right? In school, everyone gets homework, and you have to do that on your own. You have to be responsible enough, especially as you get into the middle school, high school age. You know, mommy, daddy aren't gonna, and I hope they're not always on top of you about your homework. You have to take responsibility, right? And so training on your own and having homework from school is very similar, right? You need to have ownership of that and know that that's what you need to do to get better. So, you know, I think that's a very, very easily transferable skill that players can take away from either the classroom into their soccer game, or their soccer game into the classroom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you look back at all the best students in your classroom, the best students were the ones that were accountable to their learning, right? The ones that you don't have to tell them to study. They'd get home and do maybe 30 to an hour worth of self-studying, studying by themselves, just looking over their notes,
right,
and reading about what the teacher just taught them. You know, and then you've got obviously the others that, you know, the teacher has to set you something in order for you to study, which I'm going to put my hand up because that was me.
Oh, man, I didn't study on my own.
There you go. Now, obviously, looking back on it now, I would have definitely been the other student, right? The student that you didn't have to say anything.
Right.
I would have looked back on, like, all right, what did I learn?
I would have watched this episode of the Player First podcast, and I would have learned and been better.
You know? Exactly. And it's the same in soccer, right? The player that's the more successful on the team, the better player. Guaranteed, it's the player that trains by himself.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be the player that gets home and just all he does is just play video games. Okay, because at the end of the day, you're not learning at a sufficient speed. The player that gets home, continues training a little bit, is the one that ultimately is going to be the better player on your team.
Yeah.
So you have to make a decision as a player. You're going to be the player that doesn't do anything, you know, get home, play video games for 6 hours, or you're going to be the one that when you get home, you continue training a little bit by yourself.
Right.
After your session, right? It doesn't have to be straight after your session. It could be the day after.
Right.
But it's to do with accountability and responsibility, because you have to treat, you know, as you said, you have to treat training on your own as homework. That's your homework without the coach actually saying to you, right, you have to train by yourself.
Right.
You know, because the exam equivalent is the game you have on the weekend. That's your exam. Because what the work you put in during the week will show when it comes to the game.
Yeah, 100%. It's 100% right.
You know, if you've been eating poorly during the week, you know, you're going to feel heavy on the weekend, Coach Fernando.
Right. Which I try to take care of myself unless it's Thanksgiving. So recently I'm feeling a little heavy. But you're 100%.
Coach Fernando, right. One last thing on that. It's a good thing your coach doesn't play you.
Thanks, Coach Lee. I appreciate that one. No, but in all seriously, getting back to the topic, the test is like game day, right? We were talking about, you know, all that training that you're doing at sessions or on your own even, that's what you are going to put into the game, right? That's the game day is like the ultimate test of all that studying, if you will, all that practicing.
Yeah.
The same for school, right? It's the same for school. All that homework that you do, all that extra studying that you do on your own, that's what's preparing you for that test, right? To be successful on that test, on that exam. So
exactly.
It's very similar. And you know, I just hope that players out there see that they can use these skills in both things, and on the field and in the classroom, to be successful at both.
And that's why when we say how you do one thing is how you do everything, because everything in life is very, very linked.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to put my hand up and I'm going to say I'm perfect, because, you know, I do
Well,
specific things that.
we know you're not. Don't worry about
it. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Fernando.
it. I'll give you permission to not be perfect.
Exactly. So, but going back to the point, it's like a lot of things in life, if not most things, are very similar and linked.
Yeah.
So how you do one thing is how you do everything. You know, you can't be a great athlete and just be a great athlete. You know, you have to then be a good student as well.
Right.
You can't just rely on being a good athlete. You have to also be a good student, because it's all linked.
And I think it's just realizing that, you know, you're at the end of the day, whether it's school, soccer, or another activity, what you're doing is you're building yourself up, right? You're building yourself up to be better, just as who you are, right? So that you can apply yourself to all areas and all of your interests in that same way, right? So if you're a great soccer player on the field, you're very prepared, you're very organized, you show up on time, you're disciplined, you train on your own, right? You can take that habit, that discipline, you can take those skills and put it into the classroom, or you could put it into another activity, right? But it's just about building those things for yourself and using them to build yourself so you could apply it in all areas.
Exactly. 100%. Well said, Fernando.
There we go. There we go. Coach Leo, I love this episode. This is excellent, because I think a lot of players need to see that what they do in one place is how they can apply to somewhere else. But, you know, as we start wrapping up, is there anything else that you feel like we need to share out there, or do you want to just recap what we talked about so far?
Yeah, no, I just want to add that this episode helped me as well, not just players. A bit selfish, but it does educate me as well.
That's true. We're always learning on these, which is one of the best things about this that I love.
But it's going back to that, like how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So, and that for me, when there's something that I do with half an effort, I always remember, or I have to remind myself, right, if I'm going to put half an effort into this, then there's something else that I'm going to put half an effort into, right? So I try as much as possible to put 100% in everything I do,
right?
And regardless whether it motivates me or not. And that's something as I've got older, I've tried to learn to do. And I think for younger people, it's very, very important as well. Because in today's society, a lot of young people, if there's something that they don't like doing, they give up so easily.
Right.
They're like, right, I don't want to do it because I don't enjoy it. But, you know, sometimes to get ahead, you have to do certain things that you might not enjoy, but that will get you ahead in whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not all going to be rosy.
Yeah. And it's like we were talking about, everything is related anyway. So even if you're doing something that maybe you don't really want to do or is not exciting to you, but you do it, that's going to help you do similar things in other areas, right? So just like you said, you may be worried about, only giving half an effort in this one thing, well, you think about it, that might lead to giving half an effort at something else, right? So it could work the other way around too. You know what? I don't really want to do this, but let me give it my all. And once I give it my all, I can use what I learned here somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. And it might inspire you to do something different. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's all related. Like we're saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. I think we've said that 5 million times today.
Yeah.
But it's because it's the truth, right? So if you've taken nothing else out of this episode, I think it's that quote right there. If I were you, I would write that down, put that somewhere, and use that as like a motivation for you to, whatever it is that you're doing at any point, use that to be your best. All right. Do whatever it is that you can to the best of your ability. Okay. Whether that's meeting someone new, right? Whether that's a classroom assignment that you have to do, a project that you don't want to do, whether that's, a pickup game with your friends, whatever it is, how you do anything is how you do everything. I think that is, such an important point for a lot of young players to learn early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember when I was playing back youth soccer, we had one coach that I remember I think it must have been on Thursdays. Every Thursdays it was fitness training. That's all we do.
Oh, fun.
And obviously, like, numbers for that session were very low because everyone knew this was going to be boring.
Right. I don't want to run.
Exactly. Who wants to run?
Not at 10 years old.
So hands up, some sessions I missed because of that, because I wasn't motivated. But that's an example of, it is what it is. You have to show up and just do it.
Right.
Right. Also, in club soccer, I'm sure you've experienced this. How many players arrive to your session after the warm-up?
Right.
Because they don't want to do the warm-up.
Right. Yeah, it happens. It's happened. And that's where you got to realize, like, that just leads to bad habits, right? Yeah. Even though, like you said, that session was something you didn't want to do, looking back, you probably know that you should have gone every time anyway, right? And you should have done your best at every time. And that's the same thing with maybe like a warm-up, like you said.
Yeah. So exactly. So yeah, just remember that how you do one thing is how you do everything, and bad habits can turn from, it could be a little small bad habit you have that can turn into a bigger one.
Yeah, and just always do your best. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's going to be things that you're not going to be perfect on, and that's okay. You're going to have bad days, and everyone has those. But just keep that idea in your head constantly. How I do one thing is how I do anything.
Yeah. There you go. For the 120th time we said
100 million times. I want to go back and see how many times we said that.
But no, really, really important. Really important.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Player First podcast with, again, Coach Leo with the Football Domain Academy, myself, Coach Fernando with Tiempo Soccer Academy. If you guys have any questions, comments, or you just want to reach out to us, please comment on this video, like this video, or you could reach out to us directly as well. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Coach Leo yells at me every time. Subscribe, hit the subscribe button, follow along for more episodes. And, we're always looking to help educate families and players out there to get better. So if you guys have any ideas for us, please reach out to us as well.
Exactly. We are the only podcast that connects youth football in the US and youth football in the UK.
That's right. So how do we help both sides of the pond?
Exactly. Help two nations, and at the same time we can help other people around the world. So yeah, definitely subscribe to our channel so you can watch more.
There we go. Tell them,
leave us any questions you have, and we'll definitely get back to you as soon as we can to answer them. Always here to help.
That's right. That's right, guys. All right, guys. Take care. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Coach Leo, I'll see you soon.
Same place next time next week.
There we go. Take care.
See you later.